Hi world, welcome to this video. This is Tina from tinahills.com, and today I'm going to talk to you about Chiron the Wounded Healer and what it means in astrology. So Carl Jung basically came up with this archetype of the wounded healer that he derived from the very myth of Chiron in Greek literature. So Chiron is essentially a centaur. So he's half human and half god. So there is a duality inherent in the very energy signature of Chiron. Okay. Now, Carl Jung's The Wounded Healer. This archetype speaks of someone who takes the path of learning and wisdom to heal from a particular wound. But it's not necessary that he necessarily heals from that wound. So this is again something that a lot of us cannot wrap our heads around, and there are very disparaging comments like those who cannot do teach. And I think that there could not be anything so disastrous in the thoughts of in the very thoughts of humanity. Okay, it sickens me. Those who cannot teach do. What does it mean? This stems from this very myth of Chiron. Chiron was afflicted with a deadly wound. Okay. Now he felt excruciating pain, and that's why he sacrificed himself for Prometheus, and then after seeing his sacrifice, Zeus kind of resurrected him and put him up in the sky where we can see the centaurs. So this is the myth. But Chiron never healed from his own wound. He embarked on this healing journey. Okay, he learned astrology, he was a great oracle, he knew about medicine and the plants and the herbs, and he knew all about the music of the seven spheres. He knew a lot of stuff, but he could never find what he needed to heal himself. And this did not stop him from helping others. So it's not right to laugh at someone who teaches and say that, okay, they can't do it. It's not that. It's sometimes so that it is their karma to teach it to you, even if they do not know how to do it, in the sense that they don't excel in it. Okay, Chiron teaches us that if you embark on a particular journey, you will learn a lot. If you are determined and you have focus and you're driven, you are going to learn a lot. But how do you use that knowledge? Do you just use it for selfish reasons? Are you there only to heal yourself? Okay, if you're not getting any healing, you're out of there. No, that's not what Chiron teaches us. Chiron is like, no, go ahead, even if you know that this is a wound you cannot heal from. Why? Because you can mentor other people and you can teach other people what they need to know by figuring it out yourself. And this is what Chiron sought to do, and this is a very Jungian archetype of the wounded healer. Now in astrology, this is the archetype of the shaman. Okay, and it also speaks of a wound that never heals. So I have a 9th house Chiron, which is a very strong, which is probably the best placement house wise for Chiron, and it's Taurus. So interestingly, Chiron was when it was discovered, was in Taurus retrograde, 3rd degree or so of Taurus. I'll discuss the Sabian symbol later. But so this 9th house Chiron is a strong position. Okay, but 8th house Chiron can be problematic. It can, because 8th house is again deep, it's plutonic, so it's scorpionic. Scorpio is the 8th house, so it speaks of the unconscious. So chironic wounds are wounds that never heal. But as Chiron provides you the pain, Chiron is also the medicine. If you embark on whatever it is that you need to learn through these Chironic wounds that are basically opening up your psychic energy, don't forget that every time you address your Chironic wounds, as in every time Chiron is making a placement to your Mars or Pluto or your moon or your Venus, you're really feeling it, okay? And especially when you have your Chiron return, that's at 51. And it's interesting that George Orwell had made an interesting quote, and I want to quote that because it's so apt for Chiron return. Chiron return happens at the age of 51. And Orwell says that at 50, everyone has the face he deserves. So by the time Chiron return hits you, there is no place, so there is no situation to live behind a facade anymore. People close to you already know you. People now know what to expect from you. So you have the face that you deserve, okay? What kind of life you've lived. And this is the Chiron return. It makes you the person you have become. I mean, you of course, you chose your karma, and you created all these possibilities, and you chose in between possibilities to create the desired outcome. Of course, remember, there are infinite outcomes. There are multiple infinite possibilities. There are universes bleeding into one another, bumping into one another, causing daughter universes. So it's not so simplified existence. But what does Chiron teach us? Chiron teaches us that it's all right to be wounded. It's all right to acknowledge that wound. Take a moment and say, okay, I acknowledge this wound that exists. I mean, by accepting that the wound is never going to heal is not necessarily fatalistic. Okay, people may say, okay, oh my God, how can you be so stuck on saying that, okay, this wound is not going to heal? But if you really look at it, some wounds are there for a reason, because these wounds are psychic openings. As Rumi had said, that if you're wounded, through that light enters. If you are broken, through that light enters. The concept that the Japanese, if they break something, they put it together with gold, okay, expensive porcelain or something like that. And why? They say that it has more character, it has more identity. So it's not necessary that we remain whole always. It's okay to be broken, because anyway, in this world of manifestation, we are not whole, so to say. It's this return to wholeness that Chiron seeks. Is this return to wholeness that we seek through our Chironic wounds, if you ask me. Now, so Chiron was a healer. Okay, he was an astrologer, he was an oracle, and of course, another thing about Chiron is he was the most righteous of all the centaurs. Now, the centaurs were known to be hedonistic. They would just party and have rampant sex and just do what they wanted to do, okay? And they did not have such a high moral standing. But Chiron was the most moral, the most righteous amongst the centaurs. So this also makes him different, okay? He was never into that bacchanalian revelry or that crazy hedonism. He was a different character to begin with. So, you understand that, to have the wisdom to understand that it's all right if a wound doesn't heal me, I will still go on to heal other people. That's not normal. That's not what everybody will do, So his character was different from the very beginning. He was righteous. He was, made of different metals, so to speak, okay? Now, his desire for knowledge was because of his wounding. So our chironic wounds, whatever it is, it will push us to discover new things and how to apply salve to that wounding. So Chiron in the ninth may have difficulties with higher education, with travel, and through that, through the once you clear those blockages, through that you will return, you will learn a lot and have massive soul growth. So that is the pain is the very medicine. This is the chironic wound, you know. Now what comes to your mind if you think of a healer who couldn't heal himself? Was he a failure? I don't think so. He was not a failure. So when you look at your chironic wounds, you don't look at them as failures. You have to understand that there are higher purposes. Okay. Now gods can sometimes, like Apollo and all the gods Chiron mentored, could be taken as your higher aspirations. So the wound that you develop internally may have to deal with your in training and honing your higher aspirations, or the so-called gods. Okay, even the Upanishad, the final wisdom of the Upanishad is Tattvamasi, that thou art, and you are God. You know, we are all gods. So because we emanate from that one absolute principle. Okay. So Chiron is very dualistic in nature. Okay, very dualistic. It's not a simplistic energy to understand, right? So here the Chiron is not God, he's not mortal, he's half God and half mortal. So this by itself causes a sort of duality. You know, where do I stand? What is my identity? Who am I? You know, and now this is a very good quote by Richard Bach, and it goes like, "You teach best what you most need to learn." So all teachers are actually operating, authentic teachers, soul-based teachers are operating from a chironic wound level, because they are teaching what they need to learn. So obviously I need to learn astrology and the archetypes. So here I am having a ninth house Chiron. Here I am talking to you about astrology, about myth making, and sorry, consciousness art, right? So you teach best what you most need to learn. There is a lot of wisdom in that. If you only understand that every single day when I set out to do readings with the tarot, or when I come out, when I make videos, or when I go do consultations, every single day is an opportunity for me to hone my skills, to get better, to know more of what my soul yearns for, and that's astrology. That is energy work. That is spirit communication. So these are things that Chiron moves us towards, because it wounds us in such ways that we are forced to look at these things. Okay, we are forced to acknowledge they exist, and an acknowledgement is a big step towards healing, right? So Chiron in the Eastern metaphysical tradition is associated with the Antahkarana, or the rainbow bridge, the bridge that connects the world of spirit to the world of matter. Even Mercury, or the psychopomp, known as the messenger of the gods, is connected to this Antahkarana. Okay. Now this bridge is of course symbolic from the lower self to the higher self, from earth to heaven, lower entities to the higher entities. Okay, and from ego to soul. So the movement of Chiron in your journey is the movement of from ego to soul, ego-based consciousness to soul-based consciousness. This is your Chironic journey. Every time you are touched by Chiron, or you have an aspect, or you have your Chiron return, this is your journey from ego to soul-centric activation, from ego-based conscusness to soul-centric consciousness. Now, very interestingly, all these centaurs, these half asteroid and half comets, most of them, you know, the scientists consider them dead, but Chiron is not. Chiron is actually, the scientists have actually seen, what do you call this, glimmers of activity from Chiron, quoting space.com. Okay, you can check this out, the astronomy of Chiron, you know. Again, duality, half comet, half asteroid, okay, with rings around it, signifying boundaries, karma. If you look at the glyph of Chiron, it's a key, okay, it's a literal key to open parallel doors of perception, to take you to another realm of thought, of ideas, of understanding, okay, of wisdom. That's Chiron for you, okay, opening that metaphoric key that opens all these dimensions, okay, through wounding, through pain. Don't consider Saturn to be a BDSM dom or a sadist. He's not. Okay, Chiron, although a lot of astrologers think is similar to the Saturnian energy, Chiron trains you because he has gone through it himself. Okay, Chiraklo is his feminine part, Chiraklo the centaur, and there's the yin and the yang of the wounded healer archetype, the lady shaman and the male shaman. Now, so as I said, that the rings that are present around Chiron, it symbolizes our karmic boundaries, where we can go with the action reaction that's happening because of us. Okay, now Chiron, of course, in your chart, if you study your astrology, will expose your fears, your insecurities, your wounding, the wounding you've gone through. Like as I said, in a difficult 8th house, Saturn will might have issues that deal with abuse, sexual abuse, rape, molestation. Okay. Now, the task of Chiron is to take base metal and turn it into the metaphoric gold. So this is almost like an alchemical process, Chiron. Okay, it's an alchemical process of taking base energy and moving it and shifting it up towards higher realms, higher understandings. Okay, now basically once you understand Chiron and its energies, and that happens at exactly 51 years when Chiron returns for you, you are better in handling your triggers, you're better in working with your own selfishness, you're better in working with your own insecurities, okay, and you can finally connect to source, okay, and I mean, by 51 you should be evolved enough to deal with your private triggers, okay, you should be evolved enough to deal with that. Okay, they should not trigger you in such a way that you cause harm to yourself or harm to others. That's the wisdom of 51, you know. And basically, you are not your wounds. Okay, you are not the pain. You're not the suffering. That's what Chiron wants you to know. You are beyond all this, and you're beyond time and space. So this is what we learn as we explore all the archetypes, all the energies that are present in our natal chart. This is what we understand, that we are beyond all this. Okay, and okay, now Chiron in your chart also speaks about your love life. Okay, did you know that? And of course you've got to study your Venus, Mars, Lilith and all that, moon, But essentially, if you have hard aspects to Chiron with your moon or with your Venus or your Mars, then you can discover how love will wound you. Also, Chiron by sign and by house will tell you how love will wound you. So it's very good to study how Chiron is functioning in your natal chart. You know, you can consult me for that. Now, professionally, Chiron also tells you a lot. Okay, like I have the best Chiron. I told you the ninth house Chiron. Now, Chiron's house will tell you your subject of vocation. Okay, like for instance, mine is ninth house. It deals with higher truth, philosophy, spirituality. So here I am. Okay, my subject of vocation is these things. Okay, spirituality, that's what I do here, right? Now Chiron by sign will speak of the style of vocation. Okay, so for me it's Taurus. So a Taurus is artistic, ruled by Venus and Vulcan in exoteric. So I choose to create art with all this high philosophy. That's just my subject of vocation, but my style is artistic. Okay, beautiful, harmonious, like Taurus. Taurus is the most feminine sign of the zodiac, right? And Chiron aspects, right, is going to whether it's easy or whether it's difficult, will tell you how you express your vocation. Okay, for instance, if it has some bad squares to Mars and Pluto, then of course you understand that oftentimes you may not be able to express yourself perfectly as you want in your vocation. But if it has, say, sextiles or trines to Moon and Venus, then the energy is more free flowing with how you express yourself, how you channel that creativity, right? And of course, the Venus placements and the moon placement, they all have to be harmonious. And then you will truly understand how, what is your style of vacation, what is the content, and what is the subject of your vocation, what is the style, and how freely do you express your vocation. That Chiron will tell you so much, right? Your love, your work, it's never ending. Now, I've already told you that psychic energy is what you get once you unlock these chironic wounds. It's psychic energy. So if you're a healer, if you are an energy worker or any kind of facilitator, then you cannot avoid your chironic wounds. It's something you've got to, stand and face, like when Neo faced all those Agent Smiths, right? So it's that moment. Okay, now if you have any kind of rape issues or abuse issues, this could be with an 8th house Chiron, hard aspects to Pluto, hard aspects to Mars. Okay, so you can find release and forgiveness and self-healing. It's a big process with Chiron. Only when you're interested in healing do you really look up Chiron and what it means. Okay, now Chiron can sometimes point to physical damage. Look for hard aspects between Pluto and Mars. Okay, so whenever there are those transits, be careful of falling down, having accidents. Just be careful, right? Now, of course, I want to discuss the Sabian symbol. I told you I have my Chiron in Taurus, and Chiron was discovered in Taurus, the 3rd degree and 11 minutes of Taurus, and he was retrograde. And the Sabian symbol for that is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. This is so sublime. It's like Chiron is telling us that, okay, you weathered the storm. Okay, yes, there's been destruction, yes, there's been pain, but it's here, the pot at the end of the rainbow, right? Now, of course, these are the riches that come from linking the terrestrial and the ethereal, which Chiron helps us to do. Opens up the Antakarana, the rainbow bridge, bringing forth intuitive messages for the world to use, to understand. So if you're a teacher, a facilitator, channeling such Chironic messages, then you are providing the salve Sometimes it may be that you don't know how to deal with your own pain, but there you are. For me, it's just like that. Here I am, moving along, trying to understand what I'm going through, and thereby teaching you it or telling you all about it, right? Now, chironic archetypes also exist, by the way, for each sign. So if you consult with me on your Chiron, I get deeply into that. For instance, Mother Mary is Chiron in Cancer. She's the patron energy for Chiron in Cancer. Then for Chiron in Aquarius, we have okay, I wrote that somewhere else. Okay, now listen to this quote by Rumi, and I end it. Okay, if you desire healing, let yourself fall ill. Nothing exemplifies the chironic energy, the psychic wounds, better than these lines. If you desire healing, let yourself fall ill. For how will you know about healing if you do not fall ill? How will you know about a smile if you've never cried? How will you appreciate health if you've never been ill? How will you appreciate spiritual awakening if you've never been base? Tell me. So this is the very duality at the heart of Chiron, and it's not always easy to understand, but this is the mystery of Chiron. And Chiron was in Aries and is still in Aries and slowly moving into Taurus as I speak. In a few days, I don't know the exact date, but in a few days Chiron is moving into Taurus, and from May it's going to go direct, and that's it, a new era begins. You know, we've had Chiron in Pisces, we've had Neptune in Pisces, and now Chiron in Aries is about to start a new kind of wounding and provide a new kind of medicine. So join me for my other videos, Chiron through the 12 signs, and please subscribe, like, comment, and let me know what you think, okay? And let me know how the archetype of Chiron has played out in your life. This is Tina from TinaHeals.com. Take care.